Everything seemed fine as toddler Ben played outside in the hot summer sun. Moments later, he'd vanished. 20 years on, his mum is still haunted by his disappearance. Good morning and welcome to Missing 2011. All this week we're meeting some of the families and friends of people who've disappeared, and we need your help to bring their loved ones home. Later we'll be joined by presenter Kirsten O'Brien, an ambassador for missing people. But first, among the most iconic images we've shown you in past series of Missing was the face of Andrew Gosden, a 14-year-old schoolboy from Doncaster who one morning simply disappeared from home. On the morning of Friday the 14th of September 2007, 14-year-old Andrew Gosden left for school as usual. Later that day, his parents Kevin and Glenys got in from work, expecting Andrew to be upstairs doing his homework.
We just made an assumption that Andrew had come in from school and was either in his room or in our converted cellar room, and we just called him for tea. And then we realised that he wasn't in the house.
Andrew's school uniform was in his bedroom, but there was no sign of him.
We then got to the point of trying to contact school, and we were able to then find out that he'd never even turned up at school in the morning.
As that next hour progressed, we knew something wasn't right. And so we then kicked things into motion and we found the police.
South Yorkshire Police immediately launched a search.
Andrew was categorised as a vulnerable, high-risk missing from home person due to his age and the circumstances in which he's gone missing, and this incident has been treated as a major incident.
Gradually, the police pieced together what Andrew did on the day that he left.
Andrew went missing obviously early in the morning when his parents had already left for work. And obviously he's then returned when he knows that there'll be no one in at the house. He's had the opportunity to change and to collect whatever items he's needed.
It was clear that Andrew had a plan that day. For the first time ever, Andrew didn't go to school. Instead, as the police later found out, he headed for a cash point.
He must have gone to the cash till, got a couple of £100 out, and got a train to King's Cross.
The police knew that Andrew had taken the train from Doncaster station, and as the investigation progressed, they unearthed a key witness.
We spoke initially to the lady at the ticket office who sold Andrew the ticket. Interestingly, he bought just a single ticket when a return would have only cost 50p more, which possibly indicates that he wasn't intending on coming back home.
Police then tried to work out Andrew's next move. They trawled through hours of CCTV footage of passengers at King's Cross, until finally they came up trumps. Andrew was caught on camera leaving King's Cross station at 11:25 the morning he went missing. From this point, he simply disappeared onto the streets of London. And later in the programme, there are new developments in the hunt for Andrew. Now, though, can you help us find this missing person? Julie Melton left her parents' home in Somerville Road in the Waterloo district of Liverpool one afternoon in July 2004. She telephoned them that evening to tell them she was nearly home, but she's not been seen or heard of since. Julie's described as 5'4", slim-built with short brown hair, and she speaks with a strong Liverpool accent. When she was last seen, Julie was wearing silver earrings, a black T-shirt and black trousers with a floral design on the right leg. Have you seen her? If you have, please call Missing People on 0500 700 700. Calls are free from most landlines, but may be chargeable from some mobiles. Please do call if you have any information which might help. It is completely confidential. And please do get in touch. Your call really can make a difference. Yesterday we featured the story of Darren Waller from Hartlepool and the daughters he'd left behind. and 3 people rang Missing People to report sightings of Darren, which they passed on to the police in Cleveland. Claudia Lawrence's story continues to attract public attention, with 2 more sightings from viewers. Again, they've been passed on to North Yorkshire Police to follow up. Our appeal for Colin Turner also prompted a sighting. Colin's been missing since 2007 from County Cork in Ireland. And there was a further sighting of London lad Alexander Slowly, Gogs to his friends. Alexander disappeared aged 16 in 2008 when he went off to spend a weekend with friends. Don't forget the number to call if you have any information is 0500 700 700. All week, actress Gaynor Faye has been out and about on the streets of her old patch in Manchester with the investigators of the city's Missing from Home unit.
It's my 3rd day shadowing the head of Manchester's Missing People unit, Julie Potts, and already I'm getting a real insight into what her job entails.
It hasn't like an emotional toll on me, you know, just doing that one kind of, I felt myself getting drained.
You're always conscious at the back of your mind, are they safe and well, are they okay?
So far I've been struck by the speed and efficiency of the Missing Persons unit when a fresh case lands on the desk.
Hello.
Hi Julie, you alright?
Yeah, I'm fine, thank you.
Oh, what are we doing today? Yeah.
We're going looking for Jordan. And meeting his auntie, Kimberly. Jordan's been missing now for around 3 years. He was 16 when he went missing, so he's actually 19 now.
Right.
And his family have not heard anything from him for over 3 years.
Today, Julie's enlisting the help of Manchester City Football Club to make a special appeal on behalf of Jordan Ratcliffe. At just 20 months, Jordan was abandoned by his mother. His grandfather became his guardian and has raised him ever since. As we head into the city, Julie fills me in on the details of Jordan.
Up to him being a teenager, everything was just a normal family, and then, like every teenager, I think he rebelled a bit. He was living temporary at a hostel in the city centre, with the hope that he was going to go back to his granddad at Kimberley.
It's a sad fact that 64% of missing people in Greater Manchester are teenagers. Being a mother myself, it's great to know that there are skilled investigators like Julie working round the clock on every individual case.
I think that's what I've realised, is that if any of my children, please don't, but did go missing, I'd know that somebody like you was at the end of that phone and would do everything possible to try and find my child, and you know, it's given me a lot of reassurance now.
If it's out of character and you've got concern, you know, you should phone. Don't delay that call. You're not going to be sort of said, you know, how long have they been missing? Don't phone till tomorrow.
Julie never switches off. I'm used to sitting back and enjoying the ride. But Julie's scanning every face. Suddenly, somebody catches her eye.
He went down there, didn't he?
Yeah.
Right, on his bike.
She thinks she's seen Jordan and turns the car around to have another look.
It's possible we get down the street again and he may have gone. Yeah.
Well, he was on a bike, so it'd be quite quick.
It's not Jordan, but he might be in the area, so Julie drops more posters off in the local shops.
It's a young man who went missing.
16 at the time he went missing, yeah.
He's been missing for 3 years.
From Boston, yeah. No, I'll leave it in permanently till whatever.
Till we find him.
It's a pleasure. Well, yeah, I hope you do find him. Yeah.
Thank you very much. That's great.
Thanks.
Then it's time to head into town to meet Jordan's aunt, Kimberly, to give her an update on progress. Kimberly was the last person to see Jordan when she dropped him off at Tib Street in the middle of Manchester, thinking he was heading for a hostel.
Did he ever get to the hostel?
No. A few months later, me and my boyfriend went and picked all his stuff from the hostel.
Right.
All his clothes in black bags.
And what are you doing to still keep looking for him?
Obviously keeping in contact with the police. And
Obviously, you and Julie have formed quite a friendship now through this case, haven't you?
Yeah. Kimberly will phone me up and let me know if there's been any possible sightings of Jordan in the area, and then I'll let Kimberly know regarding any recent inquiries that we're doing, and just generally give an update.
So what do you think personally, what do you think's going on?
We don't really know what's going on. Obviously he's out there somewhere. Maybe he feels if that he can't come home now because it's been too long. Obviously we just want to reach Jordan to let him know to contact home, just to let us know that he's safe.
Yeah, not necessarily that he needs to come home, but just to let you know that he's safe and well and that he's not in any trouble. You just want to know he's all right.
This afternoon, Julie and Kimberly are heading to Manchester City Football Club. They're taking part in a groundbreaking scheme to help find missing people. The club are running an appeal for Jordan on their match screens, which will be seen by thousands of fans.
I mean, they could even see that themselves and not even be aware that they've been reported missing. So, to me, the more we can get out there, the more media attention we can get, the better.
This season alone, they've highlighted 43 cases of missing individuals from Greater Manchester, and 16 have since returned.
It was clear to me that obviously Kimberly was quite moved by the photograph of her nephew that appeared on the screen, and obviously 3 years on she still, gets upset when she sees his face. So let's just hope that this will bring a fresh information forward. There's lots of people here at the stadium that could see all those missing people, and, every little bit helps.
Tomorrow, Gaynor and Julie get their own glimpse of what happens when someone goes missing overseas as they get on the trail of a young backpacker in Central America. Still to come on Missing 2011. In an effort to find out what happened to their missing son, Andrew, Kevin and Glenys Gosden have resorted to the latest underwater technology as they use sonar to conduct a search of the River Thames. The tabloids were full of it. A blue-eyed, blonde British toddler had gone missing on a Greek holiday island. In the summer of 1991, the story of Ben Needham made a huge splash. Britain was shocked by the disappearance of 21-month-old Ben Needham from his family home on the Greek island of Kos.
We've heard nothing from Kos at all. Just hoping that Scotland Yard and the police here can try and do something, because there's just been no developments at all from the time he went missing.
It's been 20 years since Ben disappeared, but his mum Kerry has never given up hope of finding him.
I was 17 when Ben was born, just going on 18. Being a mum at that age was frightening, I suppose, not knowing if I was equipped to do a proper job or anything like that. But from the moment that the doctors told me and confirmed that I was pregnant, I was so happy, so happy. He was always wanted to be the centre of attention. He was always playing, he was always smiling, he was always happy. He was funny, loving, naughty sometimes. It was everything in a child that you could wish for. It was my angel.
At the time Ben went missing, his family were living on the island of Kos. Kerry often left Ben with her mother Christine while she went to work.
My brother and my father were renovating an old farmhouse for a Greek guy. It was a job. My dad's a builder. I dropped Ben off at my mum's that morning. Ben was just playing outside the farmhouse, just being a normal toddler. Around 2:30 that afternoon, my brother left because there was no more work to be done that day. And Ben was still outside the farmhouse door, just playing.
Christine took her eye off Ben for just a minute while she went inside the farmhouse. Moments later, she noticed Ben had gone very quiet.
She just went outside the doorway and he wasn't there. He'd vanished completely.
At first, Christine thought Ben had wandered off down the farm track. She began searching the property. But after 4 hours, it became clear that Ben had disappeared. His grandparents called the police. The authorities, alongside Ben's family, began combing the island. And the next day they uncovered a promising lead. Local builders had seen a white car parked on the lane around the time Ben went missing.
When he first disappeared, Mum didn't think that he could have got to the bottom of that lane in that short space of time. We find it very unlikely that he did. It was possible for somebody to be waiting in that lane and come round the back way of the farmhouse and take Ben from there.
Despite a lengthy investigation into the possible links between Ben and the car, none has ever been found. Kerry moved back to England in 1991 and had a daughter, Leanna, who's grown up in the shadow of a brother she's never seen.
Even though I don't know him, I know so much about him and what he was like as a child and things like that, and what we can imagine him to be like now. I just always have that brother-sister bond. Every day Ben's in our thoughts. We always do spare a moment to think about him, like what could he be doing today? Has he got a family? What's he doing with his life?
I think it's obviously in her heart, it's in her blood. She wants to find her brother as much as I want to find my son and my mum and dad with it. You know, it's their grandson. We're all as equally determined to do whatever it takes.
Well, Ben's sister Leanna is unwell, so she and Kerry aren't able to be here with us today. But PC Jane Morley of South Yorkshire Police, who's their family liaison officer, is here with us now. I know you've been working with them for some years. How do you help them?
Basically, I've been working with Kerry and Leanna now since 2005. I'm there to support them, really, someone to listen to them, be there if they need someone on the end of the phone for them.
And have you noticed changes in Kerry over those years that you've worked with them?
I have, yeah. I've seen her grow a lot stronger. I think she's become a lot more positive about the future, and she's more determined in the fight to find Ben.
And it's a strange position for Leanna because she was born after Ben had gone missing, but she's still involved very much in it, isn't she?
She is. She's been brought up, obviously, with the search for Ben, and she's very focused on helping her mum in looking for Ben.
OK, so it's very much part of their family structure, their family life still.
It is, of course it is. He's part of the family and they're looking for him.
20 years on, OK.
Yeah.
Well, over the years, the mystery has only deepened, but the family's determination has never wavered. 20 years ago, toddler Ben Needham was playing with his grandparents on the Greek island of Kos. They turned their backs for a moment and he was gone.
Ben's disappearance is a complete mystery of how he got so far away from us in just 1 minute, as though someone had just lifted him. But we just don't know.
Our family's just ripped apart. We can't stand it anymore. If we don't find him, we're just going to go to pieces. We're just going to fade away.
His family were plunged into a major missing persons investigation on a remote Greek island where the police had few resources.
Kos police, in the beginning, I think we found quite difficult to deal with. One, I think they weren't equipped to deal with an abduction case, maybe through no fault of their own. You know, they're island police officers, they're not trained, they're not CID, they're not FBI, they're just island police officers that are used to dealing with tourist crime, not a child abduction or murders or anything like that.
Mistakes were made in the first few hours. Ferries leaving the island weren't checked, and it took 2 days to alert the airport. The family stayed on the island for 7 weeks, assisting the police with a slow and painstaking search, but there was no sign of Ben.
I've just got to keep that hope for Ben's sake, because we love him too much to give up. Won't give up.
As the years went by, Kerry and her parents worked tirelessly to keep Ben in the public eye. Then suddenly, in 1998, police turned up a significant new lead. A British tourist spotted a blonde boy on the island of Rhodes, 50 miles from Kos. He chatted to the boy and, while ruffling his hair, grabbed a strand of it for testing.
From the pictures we've seen of the little boy, there's a lot of similarities to Ben, the way he looks, the way he acts. We're trying not to build our hopes up too much just in case it turns out not to be Ben. But obviously, you know, we're very hopeful because we want him back.
But DNA testing proved it wasn't Ben.
There's been quite a few like that are heart-wrenching. You know, the information sounds spot on. You know, you think the nightmare's finally ended, but when you get there and you see that child, you know instantly that it wasn't Ben. There's been quite a lot that are like that.
Over the years, Kerry has remained convinced that Ben is out there somewhere, and so is her daughter, Leanna.
What doesn't kill you makes you stronger, and that's my mum's the living definition of that. My mum is incredibly strong, and she'll never give up. I don't think any of us will. None of us.
Why has he got a stick? Because they were playing golf and the golf clubs were too big for him.
Kerry and Leanna are trying everything they can to reach Ben, even getting an artist to create an image of what he'd look like as an adult.
See, when Ben disappeared, the internet didn't exist. Mobile phones didn't even exist. So now, as obviously, you know, the world's moved forward, we can actually bring Ben's case forward into, you know, the 21st century, really.
A new website's been made for Ben's campaign. We organised a Balloon for Ben week. Everyone sent their photographs in of releasing a balloon and wishing that Ben would be safe and well and found.
Ben could be anywhere in the world. You know, it's not saying that he's necessarily in Greece. The more people that are aware that Ben is missing, the better chance we have of finding him, because it only takes that one person.
There may be a chance that he might think something's not right. Maybe he's looking for us now but doesn't know the way to find us. I think now, the days that with all the technology and Facebook and things like that, I think it's getting to the point where eventually he will find us rather than us finding him.
Jane, lots of us will remember Ben as a little boy, and this is an age progression of what he would look like now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Quite important to have this image out there, isn't it?
It is really important, and the good thing is with the new website that's just been brought out, it's actually got a printable poster with this age progression on. I think it's 18 languages it's available in, so actually this poster can be printed out throughout the world.
OK, and also he was only a tiny toddler when he went missing, so he, as a 21-year-old, may not even know this whole story.
He won't, but again, with the posters, hopefully, someone may recognise him or he may recognise himself.
And his sister makes that point that maybe he will be the key, he will be the one who comes back to them, as it were.
Yeah, that's always their hope, that he will recognise himself and come back.
OK, well, thank you very much, Jane.
OK, thank you.
Now, please help us find this missing person. This is Stuart Cook, who's been missing from Arbroath near Tayside in Scotland since September 1994. Stuart is 5'11" tall, of medium build with short black hair and brown eyes. He's a seaman by trade and has a tattoo of a ship on his lower right arm. Stuart's family are desperate for him to get into contact with someone. He can call the confidential service Message Home on free phone 0800 700 740, where he can get help and support. To have a brother go missing is hard enough, but for Rachel Elias, the experience was intensified by having to deal with it in the full glare of the media spotlight.
Richard was my brother. He disappeared on the 1st of Feb 1995, which was 16 years ago, and we've had no sign of him since that date. Sometimes it doesn't feel real. You look back and you think, I can't believe I'm here 16 years later. You know, you always have that assumption that someone is going to be around. You know, when they go so suddenly, it sort of ruptures your whole thinking. He would be 43 years old now, but he was 27 when he went. To me, he still is 27.
For the last 16 years, Rachel and her family have been struggling to deal with her brother's disappearance and find a way to move on. At the time he went missing, Richie Edwards was a musician in one of the UK's most famous rock bands.
He was a member of the Manic Street Preachers, and he was the co-lyricist with the band. His strength was his words, I suppose, what he's left for us all.
But his rock star lifestyle was mixed with periods of depression and unease about his growing fame. Things came to a head in February 1995.
He checked into the Embassy Hotel in Bayswater with James, the lead singer. They were due to fly to New York on a promotional trip of the album. When James went to his room the morning of the 1st of Feb, he had checked out. He'd already departed at 7 a.m, and that was the last time he was seen.
For Rachel, this was the beginning of a long battle to make sense of what happened to her brother. Back then, the process of finding a missing person was very different. The police investigation revealed that Richie had travelled from London to Wales, then back to Bristol. 3 different police forces were involved, and there were no specialist units.
In terms of searching for him, I contacted, obviously, all his friends and family and anyone we could think of. We traced back to old haunts that he'd been to. You have to remember, it was 16 years ago. There was very little CCTV footage like there is now. He didn't have a mobile phone, and we were left really in a difficult situation in terms of the search process, because we had very little, apart from contacting everyone he knew, to actually go on.
Today, Rachel is back at the Severn Bridge service station near the Welsh border where Richie's car was found.
It's been about 11 years since I've been back here when we made the last appeal specifically from this car park. And it's strange returning here, and it's a mixture of emotions really. This is the last whereabouts of Richard when his car was found here. The driver's seat of the car was down, as if someone had possibly been lying in it. There were food wrappers everywhere, and a bag, a hold-all bag with photographs. It's funny how things catch you.
Although Richie's car had turned up near the Severn Bridge, the police didn't think that he had committed suicide. They assumed he was an adult who'd made his own decision to disappear. But Rachel saw things differently. As the months dragged on, she had to face the possibility that Richie had died, and so she decided to take the investigation into her own hands.
I decided to contact coroners either side of the Severn Bridge, with a view to possibly locating him if he had jumped from the bridge and been found. During that time, I was given a number of unidentified bodies that had all been found at various points around the Bristol Channel. It's a very traumatic thing to have to contact coroners about dead bodies.
6 years ago, Rachel found a toiletry bag belonging to Richie and asked the police if they could retrieve any DNA and check it against their records. She hoped it might show once and for all whether Richie was dead, but no match has ever been found.
They managed to obtain a full profile of a hairbrush and 2 travel toothbrushes, which is now on the unidentified database, so that I suppose if any other bodies are located, they can be cross-matched against it.
Rachel still hopes that one day she'll find Richie, but with no news either way, she's been left with the difficult decision of what to do with his money and his estate.
It's not just the emotional aspect that you have to deal with when someone goes missing. It's the financial and legal aspect.
It took Richie's family 4 years to get a presumption of death certificate through the courts. Now Rachel has joined a campaign for legislation that will help families deal with the practicalities of a missing person's life. Rachel is here now, also is Patricia Barrett, who's a lawyer. Rachel, looking back over the last 16 years, it's a tough question to ask you, actually. What's been the lowest point, do you think, for you?
I think the whole experience has been difficult. As time goes on, it doesn't become easier. In fact, it becomes more difficult because there is no resolution. You have to face up to the fact you may always have to live with the uncertainty, and that's the most difficult part.
And you also had to go through that presumption of death process.
Yes, at the moment there's no automatic process that a family falls into when they have to go through that. And that's why Missing People are such an important charity, because they're pushing forward with a policy campaign to hopefully address that for future families.
OK, so Patricia, I know you're working specifically on this. What is the situation at the moment for families if someone goes missing, and how tricky is it?
At the moment it's very difficult and very confusing, and there are different procedures, different rules for whether you're trying to remarry, for example, or whether you're trying to get probate, or for different aspects. There's primary legislation, case law and secondary legislation. To be honest, it's all over the place.
So what would you like to see done about it?
I want a bill in Parliament, and we've already drafted it, it's ready to go, which would set up a system. You would go to court once and once only, and you would get a certificate of presumed death, and that would be useful, and you could use it in all circumstances.
How much difference would that, how much easier would it have made for you and your family if that had existed?
I think you're already faced with a traumatic situation. It would have been extremely helpful because we would have known what to have expected, whereas it was just a case of each day we didn't know what was going to happen, what the outcome was going to be. It would have been hugely helpful.
And really clear from there that you actually had to do a lot of work yourself, didn't you?
And I think that's because there was no single point of contact in the police. The Missing Rights campaign is hopefully aiming towards that, because his case fell within the conjunction of 3 police forces.
It made it really difficult.
Yes.
Looking at the situation now and all that you know and that all you've been through, are you still hopeful that one day he just might turn up somewhere?
Yes, because the presumption of death legislation for us was just an end to his financial affairs. Pure and simply that. It's a strong term, but it's something that has to be used in the court process. But we still have no outcome. We don't know whether or not he's alive or dead, and we still hope that he is alive.
And you said in that film that sometimes there's just little things that catch you. Presumably you've got the photos and all the rest of it.
And it catches you, I suppose, unawares, and it's just something you have to deal with as it occurs, really.
Well, listen, thanks very much for coming to talk to us today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, can we have your help in trying to find this person? This is Daniel Birch, who's been missing from his hometown of Dover in Kent since August 2000. No one has seen or heard from Daniel since, and his friends and family are desperately worried about his disappearance. Daniel, also known as Danny, is 5'11", medium built with short silver grey hair. The last time he was seen, he was wearing a checked shirt over a vest with blue or grey trousers. He also wears bifocals. If you think you've seen him, please contact Missing People on 0500 700 700. We're joined by Kirsten O'Brien to talk to us about her role as ambassador for Missing People, and it's something you became involved in, didn't you, because of your friend and co-presenter Mark Spate?
Yes, it's recently been 3 years since Mark disappeared, since we lost Mark, but he was missing for 6 days, and we all know how it ended. But in those 6 days, it was just the experience of constantly, every time you're on a tube journey, you're looking for that person, you're ringing friends, you're racking your brains, where could he be? Which drew me to the charity, really. Having had that experience, I thought, I need to get involved.
And of course, very sadly, we know what happened to Mark. As you said, he died. What have you learned during your time with Missing People about the families and the friends and all the rest of it?
Well, it's a lifeline, the charity Missing People, when somebody disappears. There's the runaway helpline that they have if you're thinking of running away, or if you have run away, you want to get a message to someone. Similarly, there's the message home, if you want to say to your family, I don't want to come back for whatever reason, but here's a message from me. Or just the helpline if you want information, if you want support. It's an incredible thing that's there when this unusual situation happens. I mean, I have to say, over 250,000 people go missing each year. That charity is there for them. The good news is that the Missing People charity publicises it. Of the cases they publicise, 75% of those people are found.
So there are
lots of publicity.
Lots of happy endings.
Yeah.
It's also striking, talking to friends and families as well, is one person going missing can have a big impact on a wide circle of people as well.
Well, that's it. You know, it doesn't just affect the immediate family, the outer family, it's then friends, it's colleagues, it's people that just hear the story and are affected by it. I recently did the 10K run that we do every year for the charity, and, you know, there are people running in droves because they've been affected by what they've heard, raising money, and that was really a sort of positive thing for me, that it can be so affecting in such a negative, harrowing way, but there are things you can do collectively as a group of people to start making a difference, which is sort of really encouraging.
Thank you very much, Kirsten. Back now to the story of Andrew Gosden. Without a word for 4 years, his parents have taken matters into their own hands.
In September 2007, 14-year-old schoolboy Andrew Gosden left his home in Doncaster and took a train to King's Cross. The last time he was spotted was on CCTV leaving the station at 11:25 a.m. Then he vanished onto the streets of London. On the first anniversary of Andrew's disappearance, his family and friends made the 100-mile journey to the capital to continue the search.
We've got 3 coachloads of people going down to London. This is our last big attempt at publicity to see if we can find Andrew. And we're going to try and get 15,000 leaflets out in central London, so we've grouped everybody at the other end. And I haven't had time to kind of get upset about it or anything, because we've just been so busy preparing this. But I think there'll be moments when it's a bit sort of like... Especially, I mean, Glenys and I are going to go up to King's Cross in particular.
Today is probably going to represent a little bit of closure in our minds. So it isn't like we're giving up or finalising on anything, but it's just for us to say, you know, that there's always a place for you back in our house, Andrew. We love you and we miss you, but if you want your new life, you know, then you raise kids to have roots and you give them wings. You've taken yours a little bit early, son, but, you know, every good luck to you.
And we've had no contact from
100,000 young people go missing every year. Many of them head to London. The majority of teenagers are found within 48 hours, but over 2,000 under 16-year-olds like Andrew are still out there.
Oh yeah, excuse me, looking for this lad. I wondered if you might be able to display it somewhere.
It is very strange to be here. I think this was the last place he was seen.
After 3.5 long years without Andrew, Kevin and Glenys began to face the possibility that he might not come back. In an attempt to find answers, they decided to search the Thames to see if Andrew may have somehow ended up in the river. Earlier this year, they turned to a firm who specialise in sonar technology. They just designed a new machine to help find drowning victims quickly. Using this pioneering underwater robot, they searched the riverbed for Andrew.
Well, Kevin's here now with sonar expert Duncan Winsbury. Kevin, just tell us first all about that point you got to, sending this equipment into the Thames. How did you get there?
It's fundamentally, none of us in our family can imagine that Andrew could be absent for this long without making contact of any kind, because he was always quite a caring, thoughtful personality, and we just find it impossible to conceive that he would allow us to go through all this for so long without even, you know, some kind of message sent to us to let us know he's okay. So then I guess we start thinking more about, could he have been suicidal and hidden it well? Could he have been murdered? Could he have been abducted? Things like that, that none of which are nice scenarios, but they're all possible scenarios.
OK, so at that point you brought in Duncan, and Duncan, you've brought some of the equipment into the studio, so just explain briefly what it does.
This is called the Starfish. It's a side scan sonar. It takes a moving image of everything beneath the surface of the water and overlays it onto electronic map.
OK.
And you can see everything down there, from car tyres to fish to even people.
And this helps as well, doesn't it?
It does. This will find the targets for the Sarbot to actually investigate, find out exactly what it is, and actually perform the rescue.
OK, and the images are then shown up on the shore on this camera that you have set up here, aren't they?
So that's the control unit for the Sarbot, and which enables it to navigate through zero visibility and find anything that's beneath the surface.
So using all this equipment, Duncan, you searched the Thames and you didn't find Andrew?
No. Lots of other objects, sunken boats, sunken cars, but no people.
Is that good news for you then, or not?
It's a very mixed thing. I think we knew at the outset that you can kind of win with it. If we'd found Andrew was under the Thames, then that would bring us closure, but also raise a host of questions about how he ended up there, which would obviously be very difficult to deal with. Having not found him, there's a positive there in that statistically that would raise the chance that he is still alive and well somewhere, but it still leaves us in this horrible, ongoing, never-ending limbo of just thinking, well, why did you go? Where did you go? What happened?
So what happens now? You just want to know as a family, don't you, that he's okay?
Very much so. We've always said from the very beginning, Andrew is part of our family. Any time he wants to come back, to be honest, the worst thing that will be waiting for him on coming through the door is 3.5 years plus of hugs. We'd love to see him again. But if he is alive and well somewhere and quite happy with the life he's made for himself, we would just... It would help us so much just to know that he is okay.
OK, thank you very much. And Duncan, thanks very much for showing us that, which is very good equipment for helping looking for missing people. Thank you. On tomorrow's programme, 4 years on, Jerry and Kate McCann talk about life without Madeleine. Gaynor Faye in Manchester gets on the trail of Alex, who's a young backpacker who went missing on holiday in Panama. And we'll be joined by actress Brenda Blethyn, Hollywood star, and in her recent film London River, mother of a missing girl. Thanks for watching. We'll be back tomorrow morning at 9:15. Goodbye.